one is called Sweet and Sour, and it's actually a comedy. In the city of Ancheon, Jang Hok, a fat man that has recently been getting a permanent position as an engineer, is hospitalized with hepatitis B. It's a disease that can only be passed on through fluids, not by breathing the same air. But his parents still only visit him once and don't really stay long because of fear of catching it. Jang Hyuk's friends don't visit him either. They only send texts, and the other patients in the room also try to stay away from him, always asking the doctors and nurses to keep the curtains closed around him. Not everything is terrible, however, is because at this hospital that Jang Hyuk meets Diane, a nurse that is always gentle with him and even wishes him luck by dropping a kiss on his IV bag. One evening, Jang Hyuk leaves the room to wander around the hospital and finds Diane by the stairs, smoking a cigarette. He notices she has a ring on her finger, but she tells him it's just a graduation. She also tells him he's lucky to have a permanent position at his job, unlike her, who is on a contract and they work her like a dog. And that's why she's currently smoking, because she's stressed to try to stay awake. Their chat is suddenly interrupted by the very strict head nurse who comments on the smoking. So Diane pretends to cigarette Jang Hyuk's and scolds him for fleeing. The next morning, she comes by to thank him for helping her with the lie. Otherwise, she would have gotten into trouble and probably fired. And strangely, she starts stealing food off his plate, which he doesn't mind, but she still freaks out about it when she notices what she's doing. Diane apologizes before leaving, but not without warning the other patients not to bully Daeon. Later in the evening, they share a drink by the vending machine, and when Daeon comes by his bed to check on him, she's so tired that she sleeps some seconds next to him. Daeon is so tired, she even gets worse. When she quits coffee and smoking, even scolding Jaeyoung when she finds him, Jang Hyuk begins helping her have a better time at the hospital, steals his roommate's expensive food to share with her, leaves her a spot on his bed for her to nap, and waves her up before she can be discovered. She pretends not to feel well so she can take him for air in a wheelchair, and they change places later. When he goes out for dinner with his friends, they tell him the nurse must have been a hallucination, but Daeyoung doesn't give up. He goes back to the hospital, and when he doesn't find her there, he tries to get her phone number from her file, but only gets to memorize half of it before he gets caught. At home, he tries a bunch of phone numbers that start with the ones he remembers and gets lots of wrong answers until he finally uses the right combination and Daeon picks up his call. She explains she took some days off because she wasn't feeling well, and that's why he didn't see her at the hospital. So now that he knows she hasn't been ignoring him, Jang Hyuk tells her he likes her, to which Daeon responds by inviting him to come to her apartment. Oh yeah! By driving his dad's car, Jang Hyuk quickly arrives at her place, and they have a very awkward conversation before Daeon invites him to stay the night since she feels lonely. When they go out shopping, they try to get matching shirts, but they're too small for Jang Hyuk, which makes him jealous of the couples that can wear them. They also stop by the macaron stand, whose clerk gives Daeon a discount for having come before. But Jang Hyuk doesn't need any because now he's feeling bad about his weight. The day of the vacation finally comes, and Daeon is waiting for him by the airport entrance. Jang Hyuk stops the taxi just in time and runs towards her as she waves at him. Daeon has a surprise for him, a pair of shoes, which match hers. Although she denies they are to replace the matching shirts, Jang Hyuk puts them on and promises he'll use them to lose weight for her, then runs around a little bit to prove it. We suddenly cut to Jang Hyuk running in the park, showing him skinny and healthy. When he goes back to Daeon's apartment where they live together, he makes breakfast for both of them before leaving for work. He also takes out the trash on the way out. At the office he works, they tell him he's being sent to a large corporation under a temporary contract, and if he does well, he may be hired permanently.
This is an amazing opportunity for him, but the other company in Seoul, which isn't exactly near Incheon, is a bit of a problem. He tells this to Daeyoung over lunch, but they can't finish discussing it because other nurses arrive and she doesn't want to be seen with him, especially when the nurses think he looks familiar. Some days later, Jan Hog goes to pick Daeyoung at work, getting jealous of her fat co-worker. He introduces her to the new car he's bought and promises he will travel back and forth from Seoul every day, so their lives don't have to change. He also gives her a new ring to replace the graduation one she lost. So from now on, if he leaves work late, Jan Hawk will stay at the place he's renting in Seoul and only travel back during the weekends. Bo Young becomes a bigger and bigger mess every day. She stays in the office overnight, keeps falling asleep during work hour, overeats, and since she can't wash, her clothes have tons of stains. Her hair has crumbs, and she thinks when Jan Hug tells her she couldn't eat so much at work, Bo Young finally has a breakdown and begins crying as she explains she eats to stay awake because she must finish the work he ruined for her. Jan Hog begins to feel pity for her, so he decides to stay at night and help her finish the project. Not noticing Daeyoung's text asking him if he's still coming over tomorrow. The next day, they present the finished project to their bosses, who congratulate them for it and tell the permanent team they should learn from it. After work, they go to a restaurant to celebrate where Jan Hug avoids drinking because of his injured liver. After telling Daeyoung he'll go home when they're done with the company dinner, he keeps an eye on Bao Young, who keeps getting drunk. By the time he makes it home, it's incredibly late, and Daeyoung is not there. She was called by the hospital to cover another nurse's shift and will work all night. Daeyoung apologizes for not seeing him, and before hanging up, she asks him to change the light bulb. Jan Hug, however, falls asleep and leaves for work the next day without doing the change. At the office, their boss congratulates him and Bao Young for being a good team and gives them a new project for them to work together on, which they don't mind because now they're getting along pretty well. Jan Hawk begins staying late working, extra hours with Bo Young, and developing a connection with her. Now that could be a problem, don't you think, my friends? But also canceling on Daeyoung often, so they see each other less and less every week, sometimes almost never. Talk about the rat race, huh? He ignores them because he wants to stay with her, but tired of hearing the phone, Daeyoung tells him to go. At least this time, Jan Hug remembers to text her while he's away, and when the work hours are over, he doesn't stay extra hours with Bo Young. He leaves on time to be there with Daeyoung. Jan Hug begins commuting between Incheon and Seoul every day, and this quickly takes a toll on him. He's so tired, he goes to bed early and barely spends time with Daeyoung anyway, and keeps falling asleep at the office too. He begins being the same kind of guy getting ready in his car he used to make fun of, and arrives late at work when he oversleeps, earning him a scolding, of course. One evening, Bo Young points out that they're falling back on their new project because he leaves early and convinces him to stay over. So Jan Hawk once again starts going back home fewer and fewer days. When he finally goes out with Daeyoung during the weekend, he spends the whole walk complaining about how he is tired, how he wants to go home, and telling Daeyoung to shop faster. Not even letting her stay for long at the macaroon stand, that is. She wants to try it so badly, but this guy's just an asshole. After she broke up with Skinny Jang Ho, she removed her ring on purpose and then told Fat Jang Hong that she lost it. When Skinny Jang Hyo told her she could have had the ticket, she used the chance to invite Fat Jang Ho to go with her instead. Back in the present, Daeyoung checks on Fat Jang Ho and helps him stand up. She does see Skinny Jang Ho, but totally ignores him, walking into the airport to leave with her friend without a word. Furious, Skinny Jang Ho insults her and kicks a trash can before going back to the company party, only to discover Bo Young has won a Jeju vacation for two. Overwhelmed by the irony, Jang Hoo decides all this mess is his old boss' fault for having him sent there, then takes out the ring and proposes to Bo Young as he tells her he loves her. Bo Young turns him down, saying she's not quite there yet, but Jang Hyuk spends the rest of the night drinking. If you have received value in this video with this movie, I believe you know what to do. There is a lot of morality and a good reflection of this movie regarding the rat race. I thank you for your time and I thank you for listening. Asian movies are really amazing to watch. Most of them have better messages than the American ones. I thank you for your time and I thank you for listening.